Cole Havelock stood on the dusty thoroughfare of the frontier moon Vetrax, blinking beneath neon signs that flickered in and out, each proclaiming some variation of cold drinks, hot company, and no weapons allowed. He adjusted the collar of his worn coat, letting the crisp, acrid wind blow across his face. By any standard measure, he was an unassuming figure, a human trader, neither tall nor short, neither stout nor slim, with tired brown eyes that had witnessed too many broken deals and starship engines on the fritz. Yet there was a restlessness in him, a gnawing hunger for something new, something to break the monotony of wandering from one dusty spaceport to another, always in search of profit or fleeting companionship. Vetrax's main settlement, improvised around a mining complex that had gone defunct long ago, was now home to drifters, mercenaries, and exiles of every stripe. The local bar, ironically called the Subterrane, was a place where uneasy alliances were formed or swiftly shattered. Cole sighed. He had come to Vetrax to offload a cargo of low-grade starship power cells. Credits were credits, but the pay hardly justified the tension in the air. One could taste the metallic tang of trouble in a place like this. He pushed open the Subterrane's reinforced door. His boots echoed on steel plating covered in grit. Dim overhead lights highlighted a scene both exotic and familiar. Travelers of various species, gambling at half-broken tables, swirling drinks in battered cups, speaking in hushed or brazen tones. The bar's far corner was a tangle of dark shadows, where one could see hulking silhouettes that occasionally stepped forward to grab more ale. The place reeked of sweat, ozone, and simmering aggression. Cole moved toward the bar counter. He settled in, flicking a glance at the bartender, a lanky, six-armed Siltarian who polished glasses that never seemed to get fully clean. Cole ordered something strong, didn't even ask for specifics. A chilled glass arrived in front of him, bearing a liquid of dubious color. He swallowed a mouthful, grimaced at the bitter tang, then offered a short nod of thanks. He'd taken only a few sips when, from an adjacent table, he caught an unmistakable glint of malice. Some big, furred creature with pointed ears and broad shoulders bared fangs in his direction. The being was nearly 8 feet tall, tufted tail flicking behind. Her, a presence that demanded deference, if not outright fear. Her clothing was minimal bandoliers of leather across a powerful chest, thick bracers on muscled arms. A faint pattern of stripes ran across her fur, though the dim lighting made it hard to see their color clearly. She eyed Cole with a mixture of curiosity and undisguised challenge. Perhaps it was the unfortunate collision of Cole's weariness, the burning bite of the bar's cheap liquor, and that undercurrent of restlessness. Perhaps it was the fact that he, far from home, felt an instinct to not appear weak in front of so many roving eyes. Whatever the reason, he held her gaze a second too long, let his lip curl into something that might be interpreted as a sneer. The big alien rose to her feet, stepping toward him with an ominous gait. Cole's heart hammered. He told himself to stand firm, not show fear. She towered over him, close enough that he could see the ruddy gold color of her eyes. Her breath carried a raw, earthy scent, not entirely unpleasant. But then she spoke, her voice a resonant rumble. "You, human," she said, each syllable pronounced with caution, as if she were tasting the words. "Your eyes linger. Is this challenge?" He swallowed. No offense intended, just, "Well, I'm not looking for a fight." A growl rumbled in her throat. "But you do not avert your gaze. Among the Gara, that is a challenge." He glanced around. The entire bar had gone silent, every patron warily eyeing the confrontation. Cole felt the urge to laugh off the misunderstanding, but he also knew that backing down too quickly might make things worse in a place like this. Still, he had no desire to fight someone who clearly weighed a good 100 pounds more than he did and looked like she could crush a steel bar with her bare hands. The bartender discreetly slid back, giving them space. The alien female drew closer, her eyes narrowing. "You do not answer. I see your fear, but also defiance." She thumped her chest, the motion rattling the glassware on nearby tables. "I am Zhara, alpha of the Gara hunts on this moon. I accept your challenge. Defend yourself." Cole opened his mouth to speak, but the next instant, the bar erupted in chaos. Zhara lashed out with a swift punch. Cole ducked just in time, the blow whistling past his ear. He scrambled backward, nearly tripping over a stool. She advanced, fists raised, tail lashing the air. Determination coursed through Cole's veins. If he was going to be attacked for no reason, he'd at least land a blow. He feinted left, circled right, then brought his fist around with all his might. He aimed for her midsection, but she twisted, so his punch smashed into her side. A thick snarl escaped her lips, yet she barely budged, gritting his teeth. Cole threw another punch, this time connecting with her jaw. He felt the impact reverberate through his knuckles. Surprise flickered in Zhara's golden eyes. Then something else, admiration. A savage grin broke across her muzzle. She barreled into Cole, lifting him bodily and slamming him onto a nearby table. Pain flared in his spine. The table collapsed beneath them, sending a shower of splinters across the floor. Cheers, jeers, and frantic scuttling rose as onlookers parted to give them room. Despite the ache in his back, Cole forced his body to move. He twisted free, landed a clumsy kick to Zhara's thigh. She stumbled for a fraction of a second. He realized if he stood toe-to-toe, he'd lose quickly. So he darted behind a broken chair, trying to keep distance. Zhara let out a raucous laugh, a deep-chested sound that somehow made Cole's heart skip. "You have spirit, human. Good," she growled, rolling her shoulders in preparation for another round. "Now, stand and face me. Show no cowardice." Cole grunted. "I'm just trying to stay alive." "All right." In a swift movement, Zhara lunged again. This time, Cole braced, letting her momentum carry him sideways. He slammed his elbow into her kidney area. She roared, spinning and sweeping his legs with a well-timed strike. He went down hard. The back of his head banged against the floor. Dazed, he stared up at the flickering overhead light. He heard footsteps, saw Zhara's looming figure. A heavy foot pinned his chest. "All right, I yield," he rasped. "You win." Silence fell. Zhara stared down at him for a long moment. Then, to his shock, she offered him her hand. He hesitated, then took it. She hauled him upright with ease. Cole coughed, brushing dust off his coat. A subtle hush settled over the bar. Zhara let out another laugh, though this one lacked the harsh edge from before. "You amuse me. Human, you do not cower, and you do not relinquish pride. Among my people, that is worthy." She slapped a heavy hand on his shoulder, nearly causing him to buckle. "The fight is done. We shall speak more." Cole exhaled, his heart still pounding. The bar's tension began to ease. As though the threat of lethal violence had passed, patrons resumed low chatter, though many still glanced warily at Zhara and her newest sparring partner. The bartender resumed polishing glasses. Zhara beckoned for 2 more drinks. She shoved one into Cole's hand, then raised her own. "To the warrior's spirit," she said. Her golden eyes gleamed. Cole managed to smile, taking a tentative sip. He expected another punch, but none came. Little did he know that this fateful exchange was only the beginning of a journey that would upend his entire life. binding him to this towering alpha in ways he could never have imagined. Cole awakened the next morning in a cramped, hostile room. A dull ache permeated his body, especially his shoulders, ribs, and lower back. Faint bruises from the brawl demanded his attention, but he had a job to do. He needed to finalize the sale of his cargo. Business rarely waited, even in a place like Vetrax. He pulled himself out of bed, splashed cold water on his face from a rudimentary basin, and recalled hazy memories of the previous night. Zhara's towering form loomed largest among them. He remembered the ferocity of her strikes, the surprising good humor afterward, and the round of drinks that followed. He vaguely recalled her speaking about tribal traditions, but the details were fuzzy. At the time, he'd mostly been concentrating on not keeling over from exhaustion. With a groan, he strapped on his boots and made his way downstairs. The hostel's entry led onto a street that glowed under artificial lights, installed by some half-forgotten colony program. He inhaled, coughed at the dusty air, then trudged to the starport. His small freighter, the Wayfarer's Folly, awaited him in Hangar Bay 6. The loading zone near his ship was bustling with robots and a handful of attendants. Cole spoke with a local buyer, a bald, tattooed man named Grease, who specialized in repurposing old starship components. They haggled for a solid hour. Eventually, Cole secured a meager profit for his power cells. It wasn't much, but at least it would cover his next refuel and maybe some repairs. Transaction concluded. Cole climbed onto the freighter's cargo ramp to do a quick systems check. That was when he heard footsteps and a low rumble of a voice behind him. Human. Cole. He spun, nearly dropping his datapad. Zhara stood at the base of the ramp, arms folded over her broad chest, eyes glinting. She wore the same leather bandoliers from the night before, though in better light. Cole could see the intricate tribal patterns etched into the leather. Her fur was a slate gray color, with stripes of lighter silver running along her arms and thighs. She regarded him with an intensity that made his stomach flip. "Zhara," he said cautiously, stepping down the ramp. "What brings you here?" She inhaled deeply, as if trying to remain calm. "We must speak. You shared a fight with me. You struck me, and I accepted your blow. In Zhara, custom. That is no small matter. Listen, about that. I had no idea about your traditions," Cole said, trying to inject a note of apology in his tone. "I was just defending myself." A growl rumbled in her throat. "It is done. No matter. The truth remains, I am alpha among my clan, and you displayed spirit beyond mere defiance. You fought. You bled. You showed honor. Among my people. When a male meets an alpha's challenge in such a way, it is a proposal." Cole blinked. "A proposal." She bowed her head in a curt nod. "We Zhara do not lightly exchange blows in public. It is a signal, a sign of interest, of readiness to prove worth. You have declared yourself a suitor, knowingly or not. IA's alpha have accepted." A jolt of panic shot through Cole. He thought of all the bar fights he'd been in across the galaxy. Never had one ended in a marriage arrangement. "This is a misunderstanding. I'm not trying to, well, propose to you or to anyone." She tilted her head, ears twitching slightly. "If it were so simple, we could cast it aside," she said. But the entire bar witnessed our exchange. In Zhara culture, the challenge cannot be undone without shame upon me, upon you, upon my clan. My tribe sees your act as a formal request to court me." Cole's mouth went dry. "Surely you can explain that I'm just some clueless human who doesn't understand your ways." Zhara's gaze hardened. A weak explanation. Honorless. The clan would not accept. They would see it as cowardice. You challenged the alpha. Then shrink away when pressed to prove yourself. That would invite scorn, or worse. She exhaled. You must see the trials through. Trials, Cole repeated, stomach sinking. Yes, the tribal trials. Anyone who challenges the alpha must pass them to be recognized as a rightful mate. There are three: the hunt, the endurance, and the spirit. Pass these, and the clan will bless our union. She paused, seeing the panic in his eyes. You do not have to love me, she added. But once the challenge is made, the only way to avoid these trials is to leave the system altogether and never return. Cole, for a fleeting moment, considered that last option. His ship was in the hangar, fueled enough to reach the next outpost, and from there he could vanish. Yet something deep within him refused. Perhaps it was his pride. Perhaps it was a sense of bizarre fascination with this towering, powerful female. Or maybe he was tired of running from everything in his life. He sighed. If I take on these trials, then what? I'd become your mate. She regarded him calmly. Yes, our clan is strong. We are hunters, proud of our heritage. You would stand at my side. You would earn respect, companionship, a place among us. Do not judge it lightly. He stared at the dusty ground. Every rational fiber in his brain screamed that this was madness. Yet something else, an inexplicable magnetism, pulled him toward the idea. I don't even know you, he said quietly. She shrugged, a slow, sinuous movement of her shoulders. You know enough. I am Zhara, alpha of the Gara on Vetrax. Now, follow me. The clan must see you, or they'll believe you hide in fear. Cole's mind swirled with confusion, but he found himself nodding. Fine, he said, voice hoarse. I'll come, if only to straighten things out. Zhara bared her fangs in what Cole eventually recognized as a faint smile. She turned and led him from the hangar. Cole fell into step, glancing over his shoulder at his ship. He wondered if this was the last time he would see the wayfarer's folly. With each step, the reality of his situation sank deeper. He was now entangled in Gara tribal customs, facing challenges he knew nothing about. Yet a strange spark of excitement lit within him. Perhaps this was exactly what he had craved, a test of will, a break from the monotony. So he followed Zhara across the settlement, uncertain whether he was walking toward triumph or disaster. They left the settlement's main streets behind, crossing a barricade that separated the relatively civilized outpost from the wild outskirts. Vetrax's terrain rose around them in jagged rock formations, the ground layered with broken stone and patches of stubborn scrub vegetation. Cole noted the dryness in the air, the perpetual dust that clung to his coat and boots. They hiked for nearly an hour, Zhara striding with confidence, as though the terrain presented no challenge at all. Cole kept pace as best he could, wincing at his bruises from the brawl. At last, they reached a narrow canyon that cut through red rock. Zhara led him inside. The path wound upward, and Cole spotted faint wisps of smoke rising from beyond the canyon walls. They emerged into a broad natural bowl, surrounded on three sides by cliffs. Several tents and small huts, constructed from local materials, were scattered in a loose circle. Cole observed about 20 or so Gara of varying sizes, most with broad, muscular builds and fur of differing hues. Some had stripes, others had rosettes or spotted patterns. Their faces shared a feline cast, pointed ears, slightly elongated snouts, and expressive eyes. They turned to stare at him in wary silence. Zhara raised a hand, calling out in a resonant voice. She spoke in a language that rolled through the air with guttural rumbles and sharp, clipped consonants. A few of the Gara came forward. One, a gray-furred female nearly as tall as Zhara, narrowed her eyes at Cole, then addressed Zhara quickly. A short exchange followed, culminating in a look of surprise on the other Gera's face. Finally, Zhara gestured for Cole to step closer. "This is Halria, my second in command," she said in trade common. "I have told her you have entered the challenge to be my mate. She demands to see if you are worthy," Halria snorted, crossing her arms. She spoke in accented common. "You, human, you do not look like a hunter." Cole did his best to remain calm. "I'm not. Not by trade, anyway." "Then you will likely die in the hunt," Halria replied matter-of-factly. "Unless you have cunning. Will you turn tail and flee now?" Cole shook his head. "No, I didn't come this far to run away." Halria gave a short nod, as though acknowledging a small but notable token of respect. "Zhara, you bring a strange suitor to us. Does he even know how to handle our beasts?" Zhara shrugged. "He will learn. Prepare the rites." A ripple of movement spread through the camp, as though the clan had all been waiting for Zhara's word. Some busied themselves with erecting decorative pillars carved from stone, adorned with markings that Cole assumed were tribal symbols. Others began preparing a central fire. Soon the tang of smoke filled the air. Cole sensed excitement and curiosity in the clan, but also skepticism. Many looked at him with uncertain, even disparaging glances. After a time, Zhara led him to a small tent on the outskirts of the encampment. "Rest here. Tonight, you will sleep among us. Tomorrow, we begin the hunt." Cole stepped inside. The tent was simple: a low cot, a small chest, and a single hanging lantern. Zhara followed, lowering her head to fit beneath the flap. She stood there for a moment, observing him in the half-light. "Do you have any questions?" she asked, her tone surprisingly gentle. He let out a breath. "Plenty. But how do these trials work? What exactly am I supposed to do in the hunt?" She paused, as though considering how best to explain. "We will venture into the wildlands where herds of Ornhar graze. They are massive creatures, strong and swift. We hunt them for meat, hide, and to prove our prowess. The alpha's suitor must land the killing blow on at least one of these beasts, with clan witnesses. If you fail to kill one, or if you run away, it means you are not worthy to stand at my side." Cole's eyes widened. "I'm supposed to go after a giant alien beast with no advanced weapon." She nodded. "Yes, you will have a spear, maybe a bow. If you are cunning, you will succeed. If not," she let her words trail off. Cole swallowed hard. "And if I do succeed?" She lowered her gaze, her ears flicking. "Then you pass the first trial. The clan will see that your spirit is genuine. You earn the right to continue to the endurance." She turned to leave, then paused at the tent's entrance. "Rest well, Cole. You will need your strength." With that, she slipped out of the tent, leaving him alone with his racing thoughts. He slumped onto the cot, mind spinning. He was to single-handedly hunt some massive beast with a spear on a planet he barely knew, watched by a tribe of towering cat-like warriors. And if he failed, shame or worse would follow. He rubbed his temples, wondering how this fiasco had become his life. Yet beneath the swirl of dread, a spark of determination flared. He was tired of drifting aimlessly, never belonging anywhere. Maybe this was what he needed, a test that demanded every ounce of his will. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a purpose here even if it was born of a ridiculous misunderstanding. He closed his eyes, exhaustion tugging at him. Outside, the clan moved with purpose, preparing for tomorrow's hunt. The rhythmic drumming of Zhara voices lulled him into a fitful sleep. He dreamed of crashing through alien forests, spear in hand, with Zhara by his side, her golden eyes urging him onward. Morning came, gray and cold in the canyon. The clan awakened early, gathering at the central fire to share a simple meal of roasted meat and some type of flatbread. Cole joined them, half expecting stares of hostility. But while some looked him up and down, many gave no overt sign of disapproval. A few younger Zhara even seemed curious. They studied his shorter build, his strange face, as though trying to understand this alien who dared to challenge their alpha. After the meal, Halria approached, thrusting a spear into Cole's hands. It was nearly as long as he was tall, fashioned from a dense local wood with a sharp metal tip. "We go," she announced. "Try not to die." Cole managed a half smile. "I'll do my best." Zhara led the procession out of the canyon, heading deeper into the wilderness. The clan moved in near silent formation, their footfalls almost inaudible on the rocky terrain. Cole marveled at their agility. They were big, yet they walked with a predatory grace reminiscent of large cats. He did his best to keep up, mindful of the way they balanced their weight, how they held their weapons. As the hours passed, the scenery changed from craggy outcrops to gentle slopes of tall, amber grasses. A hush fell among the clan. Zhara held up a hand, signaling for them to spread out. Cole's heart pounded. He recognized the cues of a hunt, the tension, the focused stares, the methodical scanning of the horizon. Finally, Zhara dropped to one knee, gesturing for Cole to do the same. She pointed ahead. Through the grass, he saw massive shapes lumbering in the distance Ornhar, the creatures that would be their quarry. They resembled a cross between a bison and a rhinoceros, with thick, layered hides and curved, horn-like protrusions. Each looked like it could barrel through a steel wall if provoked. Zhara indicated a smaller one that lagged behind the herd. "That," she whispered, her deep voice barely audible, "is your target. The clan will help corner it, but you must strike the killing blow." Cole nodded numbly. He gripped his spear, trying to calm his nerves. Nearby, the Zhara hunters began to fan out, moving in an arc to encircle the herd. Their stealth was impressive. The wind blew from the herd's direction toward the hunters, carrying the creature's musky scent away from the Zhara. Cole realized that every detail of the environment mattered in a hunt like this. Bit by bit, the Zhara tightened the ring, inching closer. Cole followed Zhara's lead, step by step, until they were within charging distance of the Ornhar. The beasts stood roughly 12 feet tall at the shoulder, their tough hides layered in ridges of natural armor. Cole felt his heart hammer in his chest. He braced himself. Then, with a sudden roar, the Zhara launched their attack. The herd bawled and thundered forward. The Zhara leaped from concealment, flanking the beasts, driving them toward a rocky cluster. Cole sprinted after Zhara, his spear clutched in both hands. Dust billowed in the air. The ground shook with pounding hooves. An Ornhar turned, swinging its massive horned head. One of the Zhara dived aside just in time, rolling to safety. Cole spotted the smaller Ornhar Zhara had indicated. It bellowed, eyes wide with panic. Two Zhara hunters moved to hem it in. Cole seized his chance. He rushed forward, brandishing the spear, adrenaline surging. The beast saw him, let out a guttural sound, and charged. A flash of terror roiled in Cole's gut. The Ornhar was bigger than he'd realized, its hooves tearing at the ground. But if he hesitated now, he'd be trampled. He steadied his stance, bracing the spear's butt against the ground. The Ornhar barreled ahead. At the last instant, Cole lunged sideways, angling the spear's tip toward the creature's flank. A collision of flesh and metal jarred him. The spear's tip bit into the Ornhar's hide, but the angle was poor. It skidded along the thick hide, drawing blood but not plunging deep. The beast roared, thrashing. Cole stumbled, nearly losing his grip. The Ornhar twisted, its horn sweeping. He dove to the side, gasping as the horn whooshed past his head. Two more Gara closed in, using bows with long, barbed arrows. They fired at the Ornhar to distract it, though by their custom, the kill had to be Cole's. The creature let out a furious bellow, charging at them. They scattered, leaving an opening. Cole steadied himself, heart pounding like a war drum. Sweat slicked his palms. He advanced again, trying to find a vulnerable angle. The beast stomped and snorted, blood trickling from the shallow wound. Zhara circled behind it, roaring to draw its attention. The Ornhar turned toward her. Now was Cole's chance. Gathering all his courage, he dashed forward, raising the spear overhead, then driving it down with every ounce of strength. The spear struck the Ornhar's neck at the juncture of thick ridges. Cole felt it pierce flesh, felt the hot spurt of blood against his hands. The creature let out a final, pained roar. Its legs buckled. Cole jumped back, withdrawing the spear as it collapsed onto its side, panting heavily. One last ragged breath, and it lay still. A hush fell over the hunters. Cole stood there, chest heaving, staring in disbelief at the massive beast he had brought down. Blood pounded in his ears. Gradually, he became aware of the Gara around him, some nodding, some letting out satisfied growls. Halria approached, examining the Ornhar. She touched the gash in its neck, then looked at Cole. "You have done it," she said. "A clean strike. It did not suffer long. Your kill is worthy." Cole swallowed, hardly believing it. Zhara stepped forward, meeting his gaze. In her eyes, he saw approval, and something else, a quiet warmth. "You have passed the hunt," she said. "I knew you had spirit. Now the clan knows too." Exhaustion swamped Cole, but a sense of triumph flared in his chest. He gave a curt nod, trying to stifle the rush of relief. Around him, the Gara roared, brandishing their weapons in celebration. The adrenaline still surged through Cole's veins, leaving him shaking, but alive with a newfound certainty. He had taken the first step on a path that might change everything. The victorious hunters spent the rest of the day butchering the fallen Ornhar, retrieving meat, hide, and bone. Cole watched with fascination and a tinge of revulsion as the clan expertly carved the beast. Despite the gore, the Gara performed each act with a solemn reverence. Nothing was wasted. They carried their spoils back to the clan's encampment. By the time the procession returned, the sun was sinking behind the canyon walls, painting the sky in shades of purple and orange. A wave of cheers rose to greet the hunters. The clan bustled about, preparing a grand feast. Fires were stoked. Large spits were erected. The succulent smell of roasting meat filled the air. Cole's stomach rumbled. His muscles ached, yet he felt a quiet pride in having survived. He settled onto a low bench near one of the fires. A young Gara female, her spotted fur shining, offered him a wooden cup of some potent-smelling drink. He accepted gingerly, took a sip, and nearly coughed at the fierce, peppery bite. Still, warmth spread through his chest. He nodded his thanks. Zhara appeared beside him, easing onto the bench. Even seated, she was nearly at Cole's eye level. Her presence radiated a calm strength. She extended a plate of cooked Ornhar meat, moist and richly seasoned. Cole's mouth watered. He took a bite, found it unexpectedly delicious. "This is your kill," Zhara said, gesturing at the feast. "It feeds our people. They are grateful for your bravery." Cole glanced at the bustling campsite. "I had help." The clan cornered the beast. She inclined her head. "Yes, but you delivered the strike. That is the proof of your worth. Any Gara can claim the spoils after the alpha suitor kills the beast. He chewed thoughtfully, savoring the mix of spices. He felt a stirring of something unfamiliar. Belonging, maybe. He was an outsider, yes, but these were the first people in a long time to show him respect for a deed he had done himself. Not for a credit transfer or a trade negotiation, but for an act of raw courage. As the feast continued, the clan told stories around the fire. Voices rose, recounting hunts and battles, feats of skill, and times of hardship. Cole listened, entranced. Though some Gara spoke in their own tongue, others tried their best in halting trade common. He heard of how the Gara had come to Vetrax generations ago, exiles from a war on their homeworld. They had made this moon their new territory, forging alliances with outpost settlers but mostly keeping to themselves. Zhara, they said, had inherited leadership from her mother, a legendary alpha who had once challenged a monstrous predator that threatened their entire clan. Halria spoke of that event, her eyes shining with admiration as she described the epic struggle. Zhara remained silent, her expression thoughtful, as though proud yet burdened by the legacy she bore. Cole found himself leaning closer to Zhara. The flickering firelight danced across her fur, revealing the subtle pattern of her stripes. A question rose in his mind, one he could not push aside any longer. "Zhara," he said, voice low, "why did you accept my challenge so quickly? You must have known I was unfamiliar with Gara customs. Why me?" Her ears flicked. She regarded him for a moment before answering. "When you locked eyes with me in that bar, I sensed more than defiance. I sensed a kindred spirit, restless and unbroken. Many Gara males cower before me, or seek me for prestige alone. You did not cower." He flushed, recalling how terrified he'd been. But maybe he had hidden it well enough at the time. "So, you want a mate who stands his ground." "It is one of the qualities," she replied, a faint smirk touching her lips. "A mate must be strong in heart, if not always in body. Our clan needs an alpha pair who leads with courage." Cole considered her words. He still wasn't sure if he truly believed he could fill such a role, but a small ember of hope glowed in him, telling him he might yet prove worthy. "I guess I have a long way to go," she nodded. "Tomorrow, you rest. The next day, we begin the endurance," he grimaced. "What does that entail?" A nearby Gara chuckled, overhearing. Halria smirked. "You will see," she said. "It is not easy, even for us. Many suitors have failed." She tilted her head, her expression challenging. "But you already accomplished what few expected. Perhaps you will surprise us again." Cole sighed. The mood around the firelight was warm, but the daunting trials ahead weighed on him. Still, he couldn't help feeling a tingle of excitement. He was stepping into an unknown world, forging a path through traditions that, ironically, he had stumbled into by accident. And yet, for the first time in years, he felt truly alive, true to Zhara's word. The next day was a respite. Cole spent much of it tending to his bruises, cleaning his clothes, and learning a few Gara basics from one of the younger hunters named Loris. Loris had bright green eyes and fur, striped in alternating shades of tan and black. He was smaller than most Gara, standing only a head taller than Cole, eager to practice his trade common. He was happy to answer Cole's questions. They walked around the encampment, with Loris pointing out various structures and explaining their purposes. He showed Cole the shrine to the tribe's ancestors, a cluster of carved stones and elaborate totems. He demonstrated how the Gara stored meat in a communal larder, using naturally cooled caves in the canyon walls. Cole observed everything with keen interest. He had negotiated trade with dozens of species, but he had never immersed himself in a culture so deeply. In the afternoon, Zhara summoned Cole to a large tent near the central fire. Inside, she and Halria stood over a crude wooden table, examining a map etched onto animal hide. The map depicted sections of Vetrax's wild terrain forests, canyons, dot ridges, and desert expanses. Zhara pointed to a southwestern region marked by swirling lines. Here, she said, the glass dunes. That is where the endurance will take place. Halria crossed her arms. Few waters, harsh sun, swirling sands. You must cross it on foot, reaching the far oasis and returning with water from its spring. That is your task. Cole listened intently, a knot forming in his stomach. And how long is this journey? 3 days, Zhara replied. 1.5 days to get there, 1.5 days to return. You will carry basic supplies, water, some dried meat, but we Gera will not intervene. You must navigate alone. She tapped a spot near the edge of the dunes. We will watch from a distance, ensuring your safety from the truly lethal hazards. But we cannot help if you falter. That is your trial, to endure Vetrax's wrath and return unbroken. He nodded slowly, studying the map. I've never trekked a desert like this. That is why it is called the Endurance, Halria said. A suitor must prove strength and fortitude to stand by the Alpha's side. A wave of apprehension coursed through Cole. He had endured long flights, stressful negotiations, even bar brawls, but a grueling desert crossing, alone, with minimal supplies, that was a different beast. Still, turning back now would bring shame upon Zhara and upon himself. He'd resolved not to run. Zhara rested a hand on his shoulder, surprisingly gentle. The clan sees your courage. Cole, remember, you are not entirely alone. The ancestors guide us, and the clan will keep watch. But your mind and body must remain strong. He managed a tight smile, trying to quell the fear in his chest. I'll do whatever it takes. Halria nodded. We leave at dawn. Get as much rest as you can. Cole left the tent, a swirl of emotions tangling in his heart. He returned to his own tent, sitting on the low cot, staring at the dusty floor. For a moment, he let doubt seep in. Could he truly cross such a punishing desert? Was this entire path an exercise in futility? But then he thought of the herd hunt, the pounding heart, the thrill of success. He recalled the small spark of admiration he'd seen in Zhara's eyes. He recalled how the clan had feasted, celebrating his kill as their own. He wasn't just drifting anymore. He was fighting for something, even if it was half accidental. He exhaled, steeling himself. He would face the endurance, and he would endure. At dawn, the clan gathered to see Cole off. They lined the entrance to the canyon, silent and watchful. Zhara stood at the forefront, arms crossed, her gaze intense. Halria handed Cole a small pack containing water flasks and dried rations. Loris gave him a short blade, its handle wrapped in rough leather. Cole slung the pack over his shoulders, checked the blade at his hip, and nodded. Zhara spoke quietly. We will travel with you to the dune's edge. Then you go alone. Return with the oasis water before 3 days pass. Cole gripped the pack's straps, swallowing hard. Understood. The clan escorted him out of the canyon, across a stretch of rocky plains, and finally to the outskirts of a vast desert. Standing at the desert's border, Cole felt the sting of hot wind on his face. Fine grains of pale sand drifted around his ankles. Beyond stretched endless dunes, shimmering in the early sunlight like glass. He realized where the region got its name. The sand was so fine and reflective that it caught the light, creating an almost hypnotic glow. Zhara turned to him. From here, you walk alone. He looked at her, wondering if he should say more. Finally, he simply said, I'll make it back. She nodded once, a solemn gesture of faith. Then he stepped forward, leaving the clan behind. The sun already felt fierce on his neck. He trudged onward, fighting to maintain a steady pace. Within minutes, the reflective glare of the sand forced him to squint. The dunes seemed to swallow all sense of direction. By midday, the heat became punishing. Cole paused behind a small dune, taking a sip of water and wiping sweat from his brow. The sun hung high overhead, searing the sand until it nearly burned through his boots. He pressed on, focusing on the ridges in the distance that Zhara had indicated on the map. If he followed them, he would eventually reach the oasis. His thoughts drifted, searching for small comforts. He recalled Earth's deserts that he had visited once, how he'd found them oppressive and unwelcoming. This was worse. Here, the air itself seemed to vibrate with scorching intensity. He made sure to ration his water carefully. Each sip felt like a precious gift. In the late afternoon, he crested a dune and saw a sprawling valley below. It was barren, strewn with jagged rocks. He recognized it from the map as the halfway point to the oasis. If he hurried, he could reach it by nightfall. So he continued, stumbling now and then as sand shifted beneath his feet. A fierce wind kicked up, stinging his skin with grains of reflective dust. Twilight finally approached, painting the sky in crimson. Cole found a hollow between dunes where he could shelter for the night. He set down his pack, drank the last of one water flask, then checked his food supply. 3 small strips of dried meat remained, along with a handful of dried fruits the Zhara had provided. Not much, but enough for the next day if he was careful. He dug a shallow trench to block the wind, then curled up in his coat. Exhaustion tugged at him, but the desert's stillness made him uneasy. He tried to sleep, dozing fitfully. His dreams were feverish, flickering with visions of prowling shadows and fiery suns. At one point, he startled awake, heart pounding at the echo of an imagined roar. But all he heard was the hiss of wind across sand. Dawn arrived slowly, a faint glow in the east. Cole forced himself up, grimacing at stiff muscles. Despite the discomfort, he resumed his trek. The dunes grew steeper, and the wind grew stronger, howling across the open expanses. Occasionally, he glimpsed silhouettes in the distance, perhaps desert creatures or illusions. He couldn't be sure. Hour by hour, he pushed on. His water supply dwindled. Sweat drenched his shirt. The sun reached its zenith, merciless in its intensity. Cole's vision blurred. More than once, he stumbled to his knees, cursing the searing sand. He thought of giving up, but that wasn't an option. The endurance trial demanded he keep going. Just when he feared he would faint from heat, he saw a dark patch on the horizon, a line of stunted palm-like trees. Could it be the oasis? He blinked, uncertain if it was a mirage. But as he drew closer, the shapes grew more distinct. Relief flooded him. He quickened his pace, ignoring his throbbing feet. He reached the oasis by late afternoon. A small spring bubbled from beneath a rocky outcropping, forming a shallow pool. A scraggly cluster of spiky trees surrounded it. Cole fell to his knees and drank, the cool water flooding his mouth, reviving his exhausted limbs. He scooped water onto his head, letting it drip down his face. He filled his empty flasks with trembling hands. For a moment, he simply sat there, breathing. He'd made it halfway, but now he had to collect the water as proof. Retrieving a small container from his pack, he carefully filled it. This was the item he had to bring back to the clan. He sealed it tightly, double-checking the lid. He couldn't afford to spill a drop. Nightfall came quickly at the oasis, and Cole spent it more comfortably than before. He found a small patch of soft sand near the trees, using his coat as a pillow. He even dared to wash some of the grime from his arms. enjoying the cool sensation of water on his skin. But the knowledge that he had to cross back through the dunes weighed on him. Tomorrow would be another grueling test. Despite his fatigue, he felt an ember of confidence. He had reached the oasis on schedule. If he paced himself, he could return to the clan in time. Then the endurance would be complete, and he'd be one step closer to proving himself worthy, though. Part of him wondered worthy of what? Of being Zhara's mate. The idea still felt surreal. Yet, as he drifted off to sleep amid the rustling of desert winds, he found himself picturing her face. Morning at the oasis was serene. The desert sun crested the horizon in a soft glow, revealing footprints left behind by small nocturnal creatures. Cole ate a meager breakfast of leftover dried fruit. He refilled his flasks and rechecked the sealed container of oasis water. With a resolute breath, he began his return trek. The first half of the day passed uneventfully, but by midday, the desert seemed determined to break him. A sandstorm loomed on the horizon, dark, swirling clouds of dust that devoured the landscape. Cole's pulse quickened. He had little shelter out in the open dunes. He pressed forward, hoping to outrun or at least skirt around the storm. But the wind rose, shrieking like a banshee. Sand whipped at him, stinging his cheeks and arms. He wrapped a strip of cloth over his face, pulling his goggles down from his forehead. Visibility plummeted. The dunes became shifting, amorphous shadows. He forced one foot in front of the other, leaning into the gale. Grains of glassy sand battered him relentlessly. His heart pounded. If he lost his way in this storm, he might wander aimlessly until his water ran out. He consulted his handheld compass, but the swirling grit made it impossible to see properly. All he could do was keep moving in what he hoped was the right direction, using the wind's angle as a rough guide. Each step felt monumental. Fatigue gnawed at his bones. Time lost meaning in that buffeting chaos. Every so often, he paused to catch his breath, crouching behind a slight rise. At last, after what felt like hours, the wind began to ease. The swirling haze thinned, revealing pale dunes under a muted sky. Cole wiped his goggles and peered around. He recognized a faint landmark, a cluster of black rocks he had passed on the way out. Relief washed over him. He was still on course. Exhausted, he trudged on. Dusk arrived, the sky turning a deep indigo. Cole pressed through the final stretch of dunes, heart pounding with hope. At last, he spotted the outline of rocky plains beyond, marking the desert's edge. He stumbled forward, breathing heavily. In the distance, he saw Torch's figures moving toward him. The Zhara clan. A ragged cry of triumph escaped his lips. He let himself collapse to his knees, arms hanging limp. Within moments, strong hands lifted him. He looked up, blinking sand from his eyes. Halria's stern face peered down. "You made it," she said, a note of surprise softening her tone. "I have the water," Cole managed, fumbling with his pack. He retrieved the sealed container, showing it to her. Halria nodded, hefting Cole to his feet. "Come, the Alpha waits." They guided him to a tent pitched at the desert's perimeter. Inside, Zhara stood by a table, her arms folded. Her golden eyes flickered with concern as Cole stumbled in, dust caking his clothes. His lips cracked and dry. She took the container of water from him, examining the seal. Then she stepped closer, pressing a water flask to his mouth. "Drink," she commanded. He obeyed, gulping gratefully. The cool liquid soothed his parched throat. When he finished, he sank onto a stool, body shaking from exertion. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Zhara bent down, meeting his gaze. "You have passed the endurance," she said quietly. "Well done." A wave of relief and something akin to pride swept through him. It nearly killed me, he rasped. But I did it, she nodded, standing upright. Halria and a few other Gara clan members watched from the tent's entrance, their expressions reserved but respectful. Zhara raised the container of oasis water, showing it to them. He returns triumphant. A low growl of approval rippled through the onlookers. Halria flashed a rare smile. Though it was fleeting, Cole felt his eyelids droop. His body finally caved in to exhaustion, and he sank into a deep, unguarded sleep. Dimly, he felt strong arms lift him again, cradling him with surprising gentleness. Then darkness claimed him. When Cole awoke, he was back in the clan's encampment, lying on his familiar cot. Soft light filtered through the tent's opening. Every muscle in his body ached, but the pain was manageable now, dulled by rest. He rose slowly, stepping outside. The clan bustled with activity. Some Gara sharpened weapons, others tanned hides. The tension that had once colored their stares was less pronounced. Several nodded at him in silent acknowledgement as he passed. Loris hurried over, offering a bowl of steaming broth. "Eat," the young Gara urged. Pressing the bowl into Cole's hands, Zhara said to bring this. Cole sipped the broth, warmth blossoming in his stomach. "How long was I out?" 2 days, Loris replied. "Your body needed healing." Cole's eyes widened. 2 days. The Gara nodded sympathetically. The endurance is a trial that pushes the body beyond its usual limits. "You survived better than most expected." Cole managed a half smile. "I'm just glad I made it back alive." He finished the broth, then decided to seek out Zhara. He found her near the central fire, deep in conversation with Halria. When he approached, they turned to face him. Zhara's expression was measured, but Cole detected a flicker of warmth beneath her stern facade. "You have healed," she observed. "More or less," he said. "Thank you for taking care of me." She inclined her head. "It was deserved. You have passed 2 trials now. The clan acknowledges your strength." Halria folded her arms. "Yes, and now comes the final trial, the spirit. Are you prepared?" Cole exhaled. "I'm not sure what that involves." Zhara's gaze darkened slightly. "It is a journey inward. Each alpha's suitor must face the ancients in a sacred place. There, you confront visions, or so it is said. The trial tests your resolve, your identity, and your willingness to unite your fate with ours." Cole frowned. "Visions? How?" Halria shrugged. "The Gara have always recognized that life and spirit are intertwined. In the caves of the ancestors, certain minerals and gases influence the mind, revealing truths or illusions. You will be given a ceremonial drink. Then you must enter alone." A chill coursed through Cole. He'd faced a raging beast, nearly died crossing a desert, and now he had to subject himself to a mysterious spiritual ordeal. "What if I see something I can't handle?" Zhara stepped closer. "That is the test. To face the illusions, or truths, without fleeing. If you succeed, you emerge reborn in the eyes of the ancients. The clan will accept you fully." Cole stared at the flickering flames of the central fire. He recalled that sense of belonging he'd felt after the hunt. He remembered how he had conquered the dunes. Now, a final challenge lay before him, testing not his physical strength, but his spirit. He set his jaw. "I'll do it." Zhara nodded. "Tomorrow, at sunrise, rest again. Gather your mind." He inclined his head in acknowledgement, then returned to his tent. That night, he lay awake, haunted by uncertainty. What would he see in the caves? Would it truly be illusions, or something more tangible? He thought of his life up to this point, the lonely merchant routes, the countless deals, the fleeting connections. Part of him questioned if he truly belonged here. or if the clan's acceptance was just another illusion. Yet another part of him longed to pass this final test, to stand beside Zhara as an equal. Her presence reminded him of the raw strength he lacked, a pillar of courage. He felt strangely drawn to her, not just by her formidable power, but by the quiet vulnerability he'd glimpsed beneath her stoic exterior. If the spirit trial was the last barrier to that bond, he would meet it head-on. Morning arrived crisp and cool, a soft haze drifting through the canyon. The clan formed a solemn procession, guiding Cole toward a hidden path near the canyon's far wall. Zhara walked at his side, silent but reassuring in her stance. Halria led the way, carrying a torch. They reached a narrow fissure in the rock, barely wide enough for two Zhara to walk abreast. Entering single file, they descended into darkness. The torchlight revealed winding corridors, ancient markings etched into the stone. Cole saw depictions of Zhara ancestors hunting massive beasts, forging weapons, performing rituals under swirling skies. At length, they reached a chamber illuminated by crystals embedded in the walls, glowing with an otherworldly blue light. The air felt heavy, charged with an odd energy. Halria turned to Cole. "We wait here, you go on. The next chamber is the place of visions. Drink from the chalice. Then walk forward until you find the stone altar." Zhara stepped forward, holding a carved wooden cup brimming with a dark, viscous liquid. She offered it to Cole, her expression grave. "Drink," she said softly, "and do not fear. Whatever you see, face it with honesty." Cole accepted the cup. The scent of the drink was pungent, tinged with bitterness. He hesitated only a moment, then steeled himself and raised it to his lips. The liquid was thick, coating his tongue with an herbal tang that made him shudder. He forced it down, every swallow more difficult than the last. His stomach churned, but he emptied the cup. Zhara and Halria stepped back. Cole felt the world tilt slightly, the glow from the crystals growing brighter, or perhaps his vision was dimming. He took a deep breath, then walked deeper into the cave. With each step, the air grew colder, his breath pluming before him. He reached a low archway leading into a vast chamber. The floor dropped off sharply, forming a natural rock platform that overlooked a subterranean lake. Dim light shone from the water's surface, reflecting ripples of luminescent algae. A stone altar stood at the edge of the platform. Cole approached it cautiously, his mind already feeling the swirling effects of the ceremonial drink. Colors seemed more vibrant. The shadows danced at the corners of his vision. He placed a hand on the altar, made of smooth black stone. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness overwhelmed him. He staggered, kneeling to keep from tumbling into the dark waters below. Shapes coalesced in front of him, flickering in and out of existence like phantoms. At first, he couldn't tell if they were real. Then he realized they were visions. He saw himself as a boy on Earth, playing by a rusted starship hull in a junkyard, dreaming of adventure. He saw his parents, distant and cold, more preoccupied with their own struggles than nurturing his dreams. He gasped as the scene shifted. He was on his freighter, battered by debt collectors and unscrupulous traders. His life felt hollow, a spiral of endless deals that never filled the emptiness within. Guilt gnawed at him. Had he run from attachments his entire life, fearing rejection? He heard a whisper in his mind, "You do not belong anywhere." Pain clenched his chest. The vision twisted again. Now he saw Zhara standing before him, but her eyes were shadowed, her face obscured by darkness. He reached out, but she faded into mist. A voice reverberated through the cavern. "You are not worthy of her strength. You are a wanderer with no purpose." Despair threatened to swallow him. He clutched the altar, tears burning his eyes. Then, through the swirling gloom, He remembered the hunts, the feast, the desert crossing. He remembered how the clan had lifted him in victory, how Zhara had looked at him with something like pride. He remembered the sense of belonging that had stirred in his soul. Was that an illusion, or had he finally found something worth fighting for? Drawing on that memory, he steadied himself. I do belong, he croaked through clenched teeth. I choose to belong. I choose to fight for them, for her. A gentle light glimmered around the cavern's edge. The mocking voices receded. The reflection in the subterranean lake brightened, revealing Cole's image. He looked stronger, more certain. The illusion shifted once more, showing him standing beside Zhara. The clan gathered behind them. Instead of condemnation, he felt acceptance. A warmth filled his chest. Chasing away the cold dread, he released a shaky breath. The swirling visions eased, dissolving into faint motes of light. The chamber fell silent, except for the lapping of water against the stone. Cole remained there for a long moment, kneeling at the altar, heart pounding. His clothes felt damp from sweat, and his limbs shook from the ordeal. But he was still himself, and a new sense of clarity flickered in his mind. Slowly, he stood, turning to leave. The path back felt shorter, the glowing crystals illuminating his way. He emerged into the outer chamber, where the clan waited in hushed stillness. Zhara and Halria looked at him, searching his expression. Well, Halria prompted, voice echoing softly. Cole swallowed, struggling to find words. I faced my doubts. He said at last, I choose to stand by the Zhara. I choose to stand by Zhara. A murmur rippled among the clan members. Zhara's eyes glittered. She stepped forward, laying a hand on his shoulder. Then the spirit trial is complete. You have overcome your fears and accepted your path. Halria exhaled, a mixture of relief and satisfaction. The ancients accept you. We all do. Cole felt a wave of emotion surge through him. He swayed on his feet, still lightheaded. Zhara caught him. Her touch was firm, but this time, it bore tenderness. The clan parted, allowing them to leave the cave. As they walked, Cole sensed a shift in how the Zhara looked at him, not as an outsider, but as one of their own. Night fell on the canyon, the sky awash with countless stars. The clan assembled around a great fire, chanting in their ancient tongue. The rhythmic beat of drums reverberated through the encampment. Smoke curled upwards, carrying the scent of fragrant herbs. Torches illuminated the perimeter. At the center of it all stood Zhara, regal and powerful. Cole stood opposite her, heart hammering in his chest. He wore a simple vest and trousers gifted by the clan, embroidered with Zhara patterns to mark his status as the Alpha's mate. Nearby, Halria and Loris looked on, along with the entire tribe. Excitement thrummed in the air. Even the youngest kits danced around the fire, eyes wide with wonder. Zhara lifted her hands, signaling for silence. The drumming ceased. In a deep voice, she addressed the clan in their own language. Though Cole understood only fragments, he caught references to the ancients, the trials, and the forging of a new bond. Then she switched to trade common, her gaze locked onto Cole. Cole Havelock, she said, each syllable resonating with authority. By the rights of the Zhara, you have hunted, you have endured, you have awakened your spirit. You stand before us as one proven worthy. Will you join me as mate to guide the clan and protect our future? Cole's throat tightened. He had never been more certain of anything. Yes, he said, voice quavering with emotion. I will stand by you. Zhara, I will honor your people, your ways, and you. A faint smile touched her muzzle, and he sensed her relief mingling with pride. She turned, accepting a ceremonial band from Halria. It was crafted from woven leather, studded with small stones that glinted in the firelight. She bound it around Cole's wrist. "With this, we seal our union," she declared. The clan let out a collective roar of approval, fists pounding the air, tails lashing in excitement. Drums resumed, faster this time, pulsing with exhilaration. A wave of joy swept Cole's heart. He looked at Zhara, overwhelmed by her presence, her warmth, and the knowledge that he no longer wandered alone. Zhara leaned closer, touching her forehead to his. That simple contact spoke volumes. Applause and cheers echoed around them, and they were soon swept into the swirling celebration. Meat roasted over open flames. Sweet, spiced drinks flowed freely. The tribe danced in circles around the newly bonded pair, celebrating well into the night. Cole lost track of time in the haze of music and camaraderie. At some point, Zhara guided him away from the throng, leading him to a secluded corner of the camp, where the shadows of towering cliffs cast a protective shroud. The sounds of revelry still carried on the breeze, but here they had a moment of privacy. Zhara studied him, her golden eyes reflecting starlight. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. "The bond of the trials, uniting us." He nodded. "Yes, it's strange, but I've never felt so alive, or so at peace." She traced a claw lightly across his cheek, the gesture tender. "We are bound, Cole. Our customs may seem harsh, but they ensure that only those who truly commit can stand by the Alpha's side. And now, you are here," he smiled, heartful. Though they came from different worlds, they shared a common flame of determination. "I won't let you or the clan down," he whispered. Zhara's answer was a soft rumble of contentment. She drew him closer, the warmth of her body a stark contrast to the cool desert air. In that moment, they sealed a connection that transcended the chaos of the bar brawl, transcended the misunderstandings of their first meeting. The trials had forged a bond of respect, trust, and something deeper, love. In the language of both Zhara and humans, days turned into weeks. Cole settled into life with the Zhara, learning their ways, sharing in their routines. He took part in hunts not always as the one to deliver the killing blow, but as a capable member of the pack. He scouted new trade opportunities for the clan, leveraging his merchant background to broker better deals for their hides and produce with the neighboring outpost. In doing so, he found a strange satisfaction, blending his old skills with his new life. Zhara and he grew closer, sometimes exchanging quiet words by the evening fire, other times sparring in the canyon to sharpen their combat skills. Though she dwarfed him in size and raw strength, he matched her cunning, and their bouts often ended in breathless laughter. The clan's acceptance felt genuine. Even the more skeptical members began to treat him like a reliable comrade. But not all was peaceful. Rumors filtered in from the outpost that a group of mercenaries sought to exploit Vetrax's resources. They had discovered that the desert sands contained rare minerals of high value. The local authorities, such as they were, lacked the power to resist. If the mercenaries gained control, they might seize the clan's territory or worse. Cole, informed by some of his old contacts, shared these rumors with Zhara and the clan council. Murmurs of concern spread. The Zhara had fought for their land before, but they had never faced well-armed mercenaries with advanced technology. Tension simmered beneath daily life, overshadowing the clan's newfound harmony. One evening, Halria approached Cole by the perimeter. "We have word that the mercenaries scouted near the glass dunes," she said gravely. "They carry heavy weaponry plasma rifles, possibly even an armored crawler. We cannot let them threaten our territory." Cole's jaw tightened. We should prepare defenses, fortify the canyon entrance, coordinate with the outpost if we can. Halria nodded. Yes, Zhara and I have discussed it. We must remain vigilant. A wave of anger coursed through Cole. He had grown to love this place, these people. The thought of seeing them threatened by hired guns infuriated him. He clenched his fists, recalling how lost he had been before stumbling into that bar fight. Now, he had a home and a mate to protect. A few days later, the worst fears materialized. A Zhara scout returned, panting heavily, reporting that a column of armed vehicles approached the outskirts of Zhara territory. The clan mobilized at once. Cole joined the warriors at the canyon entrance, where they had erected barricades of spiked logs and sharpened stakes. Zhara stood at the front, clad in leather armor reinforced with metal plates. Her fur bristled, tail lashing. Halria manned a vantage point higher up, carrying a longbow. Loris and others took position behind the barricades, spears and bows at the ready. Cole armed himself with a plasma pistol from his ship's emergency stash, though it had limited charge. He took a spot beside Zhara, scanning the horizon. The roar of engines soon echoed, heralding the arrival of a small convoy, a heavy crawler flanked by two rugged all-terrain buggies. Uniformed mercenaries with rifles perched on the vehicles. Cole's stomach clenched. The convoy halted at a safe distance. A loudspeaker crackled. "Attention, Zhara clan," came a distorted voice. "We know you occupy this canyon. We have rights to mine these lands. Surrender or vacate immediately. We won't ask twice." Zhara let out a deep growl. She beckoned Cole forward. He stepped up, adopting a commanding tone. "You have no right to claim this land," he shouted back. "The Zhara have lived here for generations. Turn around, or you'll face the consequences." A pause crackled through the loudspeaker. Then came mocking laughter. The mercenaries opened fire with plasma rounds that sizzled through the air, scorching the rocks. The Zhara scattered behind cover. Zhara snarled, barking commands in her language. Halria loosed arrows from her vantage, each arrow crackling with an energy tip that exploded on impact. Cole ducked, returning fire with his plasma pistol. Several shots slammed into a buggy's hood, causing sparks to fly. The mercenaries retaliated with a barrage of laser bolts. The canyon entrance became a war zone, echoing with weapon fire and the roars of furious Zhara. Zhara launched herself into the fray, nimbly dodging behind boulders. Loris and a group of warriors flanked the convoy, hurling spears that pierced tires and forced the buggies to swerve. The crawler advanced, unleashing heavier munitions that blasted chunks of stone from the canyon walls. Dust filled the air, choking visibility. Cole coughed, adrenaline surging. He sprinted behind a rock, heart hammering. He popped out to fire at a mercenary perched on the crawler's turret. The shot knocked the gunner off balance, giving Halria an opening to finish him with a precisely aimed arrow. Cheers rose from the Zhara. Though the situation was far from secure, the crawler rumbled closer, unstoppable on its massive treads. Explosions rocked the barricades. Zhara warriors scrambled to regroup. Zhara, her eyes blazing, signaled to Halria. They unleashed a coordinated assault arrows and spears aimed at the crawler's vulnerable tracks. Plasma pistol shots, targeting the engine vents. The barrage struck true, causing the crawler to grind to a halt, black smoke pouring from its side. Realizing their main vehicle was crippled, the mercenaries panicked. Some tried to flee in the buggies, only to be met by Zhara hunters waiting with bows drawn. Others bailed out, dropping their weapons in surrender. By the time the dust cleared, the mercenaries were defeated. Those who lived huddled in terror, surrounded by armed Zhara. Cole emerged from cover, chest tight, The canyon entrance was scarred by scorch marks, debris strewn about. A handful of Zhara nursed wounds, but none appeared dead. Relief coursed through him. Zhara stood amid the ruins of the crawler, victorious. Her fur was singed in places, her arms streaked with dust. She looked more formidable than ever, lit by the sparks of smoldering wreckage. He approached, feeling the weight of the battle subside. "We did it," he said, voice trembling with residual adrenaline. "They're beaten," she nodded, letting out a ragged breath. "Yes, they will not threaten our home again." Halria approached, bow in hand, surveying the surrendered mercenaries. "What do we do with them?" Zhara's eyes narrowed. "They came to destroy our way of life, but we are not without mercy. We'll confiscate their weapons. Then we send them back to the outpost to spread word that the Zhara are not to be trifled with." Cole nodded, admiring her sense of justice. The clan worked swiftly, collecting the mercenaries' gear. Fear glimmered in the hired guns' eyes. They had underestimated the fierce resolve of the Zhara. As the clan secured the perimeter, Cole felt a wave of fatigue wash over him. He thought of how far he'd come from that hapless trader picking a fight in a bar, to standing amid the aftermath of a pitched battle, bound to an alpha warrior. A strange warmth bloomed in his chest, a gratitude for the sense of purpose he had finally found. The sun rose over Vetrax's horizon, casting golden light onto the canyon's battered entrance. The tribe bustled with repairs, mending barricades, patching wounds, tending to those shaken by the assault. The once likely threat of invasion had been held off, leaving the Zhara victorious and more unified than ever. Cole helped wherever he could, assisting with patching up injuries, distributing supplies from the salvaged mercenary vehicles. He spoke with those who had been frightened, offering reassurance. To his relief, the clan accepted him in this role without hesitation. He was no longer the outsider. He was Cole Havelock, mate to Alpha Zhara, proven through trials of hunt, endurance, and spirit. Later that day, he found Zhara standing atop a rocky ledge overlooking the encampment. She gazed at the horizon, arms folded. Cole climbed up beside her, feeling the wind ruffle his hair. She acknowledged his presence with a slight tilt of her head, then resumed her silent vigil. "This place is beautiful," Cole said quietly. "Harsh, but beautiful." She nodded. "Yes, and it is our home. I would defend it with my life." He leaned on the ledge, remembering how that same determination had driven him forward through the trials. "Zhara, I've been thinking. We repelled these mercenaries, but they'll spread the word about this area's resources. Others might come. We should establish alliances, maybe even formalize some territorial rights at the outpost." She turned to face him, curiosity in her golden eyes. "And how would we do that? I still have a few contacts, and I've seen how trade deals can secure recognition. We can negotiate land rights. Make it clear the Zhara are the only recognized authority in this canyon. It won't be easy, but it might discourage future aggression." Zhara studied him thoughtfully. "You are cunning, mate," she said, the hint of a smile curving her lips. "You think in ways we have not. If it can protect the clan, I will support it." Cole smiled, warmth surging in his chest at the word mate. "We should go soon," he said. "Gather the clan's leaders. Talk to the outpost. Maybe get official documentation. The galaxy respects contracts. For better or worse, we'll use that." She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch both comforting and affirming. "Very well. We'll plan it together." Her gaze drifted to the clan members below. "You have brought change to us, Cole. Change I did not expect, but I see now it was needed." He covered her hand with his own. "I'm grateful for everything the Zhara have given me: purpose, belonging, and You. Her eyes softened. We stand as one. They lingered on the ledge, letting the wind blow across their faces. The burdens of the past fell away, replaced by a horizon of possibilities. The clash of cultures human, and Zhara had birthed a bond that neither side had anticipated, but both had come to cherish. A month later, the clan gathered once more for a celebration, though this time the occasion was the signing of a formal agreement with the outpost authorities. Through skillful negotiation, Cole and Zhara had secured official recognition of the Zhara lands. News of the mercenaries' defeat had spread, deterring other would-be trespassers. The clan's future looked bright. Cole stood near the central fire, watching as clan members laughed, ate, and exchanged stories. The tension that once shadowed their lives had eased. Loris bragged about his hunts, entertaining a circle of younger Zhara. Halria discussed strategy with the newly appointed outpost liaison. The atmosphere was joyous, unburdened. Zhara approached, her presence still commanding, though her gaze was softer when it fell upon Cole. "The clan thrives," she said with quiet satisfaction, nodding to the revelry. Cole smiled. "We're forging a new chapter. Together." She rested a hand on his arm. "Come, it is time for a speech. They look to you, as Alpha's mate, to share your words." He blinked, slightly taken aback. Public speaking had never been his forte, but he nodded. Zhara guided him to a raised platform. The revelers paused, focusing their attention. Cole cleared his throat, nerves fluttering in his stomach. "Friends, clanmates," he began. "Not long ago, I was just a wandering trader, stumbling into a bar fight on this moon. I never imagined I'd stand among you as family. But through your trials, through the hunt, the endurance, and the spirit, you taught me what it means to belong, to fight for something greater than myself. We've faced dangers, repelled threats, and learned from each other's strengths. Now, we stand stronger than ever, recognized by the outpost and united under our Alpha. It's an honor to share this life with you." A wave of approving growls, cheers, and roars echoed through the crowd. Cole felt a swell of emotion, remembering how lost he had once been, but no longer. He was home, in a place he had earned through blood, sweat, and a willingness to adapt. Zhara stepped forward, holding up her hands for silence. "Tonight, we celebrate our bond. We Zhara and our mate Cole together. We shape a future that blends our traditions with new possibilities. Let the fires burn bright, and let our hearts remain strong." The cheers resumed, and the drums started up again, thrumming with life. Zhara turned to Cole, placing a hand over his heart. He mimicked the gesture, placing his hand on her chest, feeling the steady rhythm. Words felt unnecessary in that moment. They understood each other perfectly. Soon the festivities whirled around them, the clan dancing, feasting, and sharing in the triumph of unity. Cole found himself embraced by people who had once doubted him, now calling him brother. He glimpsed the wide smiles of the younger Zhara, eyes shining with respect. And amid it all, Zhara stood at his side, her golden eyes holding a spark that was both fierce and tender. As the night wore on, Cole and Zhara wandered away from the revelers, finding a quiet overlook above the encampment. The moonlight bathed the canyon in silver. They stood there, hand in hand, letting the cool breeze wash over them. "It's funny," Cole mused, voice gentle. "This all started because I punched you in a bar." Zhara rumbled a soft laugh. "Yes, fate can be strange. Our worlds collided through misunderstanding. Yet it brought us here." He looked at her, heart full. "I wouldn't change a thing." She kissed him then, a tender, lingering gesture that held all the warmth and promise of the future they would share. Together, they gazed upon the land they now protected. the clan that had become their family, and the stars beyond, where once Cole had wandered aimlessly. Now, he had found his place and his purpose. Their story born of a careless spark in a rowdy bar, tempered by trials of hunt, endurance, and spirit, culminated in this moment of tranquil unity. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, and, at long last, Cole Havelock had discovered the meaning of home.